Hey there, everyone. I'm AJ.
And I'm Carlos.
Welcome to the Roaming Minds podcast, your space for unpacking all things related to mental, cognitive, and neural health.
We're here to shift through the mass of information related to mental health and wellness. Think of us as your friendly guides, here to assist you in making actionable choices in your mental wellness journey.
Now, please understand, we are not doctors, psychologists, or therapists. We are just humans who are curious and have a passion for all things related to mental health, sharing what we've learned for informative purposes only.
Exactly. This isn't medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're dealing with something serious, please hit up your doctor or mental health professional. Don't take our word for it.
Never skip out on expert help or put it off because of something we discussed here. If you need support right now, check the links in the description.
So buckle up, friends. Let's dive into today's convo and explore what's on our mind.
We spent the past 4 episodes talking about maintaining motivation, but it really is more what to do when you don't know what to do. Does that make sense? Find purpose,
Well,
find some passions, start making those changes in those beliefs, and believe that it's all going to work out to the best of its ability,
mm-hmm.
or the exact way that it needs to necessarily. But what we didn't kind of talk about is what happens when all of that kind of goes away. And all of that does go away. Eventually, we get to the point where maybe I've been really like hammering it home for like a week and a half, and I'm showing up, I'm going to the gym, maybe I'm journaling every morning, maybe what else? Meditating at some point in time in the day. But I'm a week and a half in and I'm tired and I really don't feel like doing it anymore, and bleh, right? Um, and it's really that in between period that we're looking at. I don't want to call it the gray area because I think that that's stupid. Not stupid, but like when I say gray area, like it just makes, I don't know, man. I feel like that's already been established before.
Yeah.
And so I want to come up with a better term, but we may not do that here today. Who knows? I'm not sure. But I did like this quote. I thought it was really interesting. The middle is messy, but it's also where the magic happens. You're not at the beginning where everything is super new and exciting and you can just go, go, go and keep pushing. But you're in that middle kind of transitionary period before you start seeing a whole lot of results. And you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
This
It's the
sucks.
it's like the impasse point. It's the point where, you get to decide I get to continue whatever journey I've set out for myself, or I get to negate on it and go back to Z. I don't like the word zero because you did go on a journey itself. It may not be where you
Hmm.
wanted, so it's not going
Right.
back to zero, but like at least it's not continuing with that journey and just shifting gears. Whether it's just in the case if we're using the gym as an example, whether it's going consistently, continue to go consistently, or becoming a couch potato. So that's the difference.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. While you were talking, it just made me think of going from 0 to 1. At least in startup land, 0 is you got nothing, and then 1 is you actually have something. It it's not easy. A lot of people don't make it. It's the same for continual self-improvement. Why don't we make it? Well, because of that gray area, those transition spaces where I'm not fully seeing the results that I want to be seeing, but I'm still putting in the work. And I mean, I know I used like a week and a half, and that's probably too short. I mean, for depending on task with which you are completing, it's too short. I mean, come back to that idea of personalization. Whatever task you're completing, that transition time is going to be different.
Yeah.
And so psychology really has this interesting concept called liminality, or the psychological state of being in transition. When we embark on any of these processes, whether it be I want to get healthier by going to the gym, whether that be I want to become more self aware by journaling, all of these things are vessels to carry us towards a higher state of being, if you will. There has to be some sort of transitionary period that happens from I'm super duper motivated and I'm going to crush this to becoming that person with which we
Hmm.
want to be, or to reaching that state that we're looking for. I really don't like the examples that I put up because I think it's hard to come up with concrete examples of this, partially because it is so much different for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about after you quit a job and then you're waiting to get a new one. Like that's like a just a dark period anyway, because you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, what's going on? But what happens after you've taken a little bit of action to go and get someplace, but the results haven't come yet?
Hmm.
And that's really, I think, what I would like to focus on for the rest of this conversation. It is really interesting, this idea of why we think that everything is going to work out quickly. Uh, I don't know. I read it somewhere and I looked at it, and I guess at one point somebody asked Warren Buffett, why doesn't everybody do your method? And he's like, because nobody wants to get rich slowly. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. It really is this very interesting contradiction that exists. We think we're going to live forever, but we behave and want everything immediately.
Well, and I think it's because deep down we all know we're not going to live forever because yeah, there's again the one certain, no matter who you are, the one certainty in the world is you will die at some point, whether it's tomorrow or 100 years from now. At some point, you will be gone.
Right. It definitely could be. I find that so fascinating when I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, why we rush to get things done. I mean, I know I watch my son do it. He's like, I got to get this done right now. I'm like, dude, you have 4 hours until you're going to go and play with your friends. In that 4 hours, you can spend this time doing this assignment to the best of your ability, or you can go lay on a couch and do nothing. And he's going to choose to do it like crap. And then not me. That's probably harsh. It's probably not that bad. Do you know what I mean? But he's going to choose to not put forth the best effort and then go
Right.
lay on the couch. And I feel like that's pretty um, typical for most kids. I'm not saying all. I would never, because there are definitely highly motivated children.
Yeah.
There are also highly unmotivated
Well,
children that aren't going to do the work in the first place. So I get it. I'll take what I can get. But I just using just using that as an example of like, we really want things to be resolved and finished as fast as humanly possible. It makes me think of the one Adam Sandler movie that I didn't think was that I didn't I'm not saying it was a bad movie. It was just very different than his norm. I think it was Click, with the remote, and he could speed through the parts of time in life that he didn't want to
I think
go through.
I think that may have been Jim Carrey.
Mm-mm.
Was it
It was definitely
Adam
almost
Sandler?
positive. Now you've got me second guessing myself, Carlos.
No, because
Come on.
I feel like I remember a
No,
scene.
it's Adam Sandler. Yeah,
It's
it's
like a
Click.
like
It's 2006. It's a longer time ago. But there is kind of this mentality of I just want to get through it and get to the end. But at the same time, we're so concerned about the end, and we're so afraid of the end. Why would we want to rush and just live through till the end?
I think the bigger answer to that question is I think it's a societal thing where we are in a competitive thing. So it's I want to get it done first. I want to be first, and we also want it's that thing of if you're trying to lose weight, you and your friends, you want to be like, oh, I lost the 10 pounds first. So it's that thing of some maybe it is the animalistic nature of us, or the I don't forgot the specific word I was looking for, but that nature of like where like I don't we just want to do things and then get the results. And I think sometimes the thing that people don't understand is you can get the result really quick, but it can also be done real fast. So sometimes people will do things, get the result, expecting it to stay at that point where they got real quick, and then falter, and then they'd be like, wait, what? And then it's not continuing the thing. Like going back to the weight loss, we literally live in a world where GLP-1s are a thing. Everybody is on a GLP-1 because everybody wants to be thin. And some people are doing it, some people are taking the time and doing it the natural, doing the many years of working out, the diet changes and all these things. And I'm not saying people who are on GLP-1s are not doing not following those specific things, but the generalization is the vast majority of people on GLP-1s
Hmm.
then getting on it so they can lose the weight real fast for what
Hmm.
for the wedding that they wanted to go to or whatever event they want to go to, and then expecting to stay the same after that.
Yeah, I I see what you're saying, and I think one of the things that really stood out while you were talking is this idea of going through all of it, going through the dietary changes, just to come back to your example, going through the dietary changes, working out consistently for those few years. That is that there's no shortcut in that method. You have to go out and you have to live the journey. You've got to experience it all in order to be able to learn the necessary lessons to be able to then go out and move forward. With I mean, if you're taking GLP-1s, it's just like a hack. It's just like the quick and smooth of it. And so, and I'm not here to pass judgment.
Same.
That's not what I'm getting at here. It's the same with any hack. If we take any sort of shortcut, it's just going to kind of last a little bit longer,
Yeah.
or last a little bit less because we didn't fully embrace that knowledge, and it does kind of eliminate that gray area that we're talking about. Right? You've kind of eliminated that transition because again, and I'm going to come back to what I kind of started with a little bit earlier was you have that initial time period where you're like, yes, I'm super motivated. I'm going to do this and nothing's going to stop me. Then you have that gray space where you're kind of becoming who it is that you want to be. And then you have the space where you actually see the results. And if you've gone through that whole entire journey, the results last much, much longer as opposed to, oh, I'm going to do this. I found a way to hack that middle area and now I'm here. Again, I am not knocking
Oh, no,
either. I don't know that it's
I perfectly agree with you. I think there's been maybe this phrase has existed a much longer, but it's the idea of work smarter, not harder. Again, I'm not. Again, if you work smarter, not harder, that it's not wrong. And if you work harder and not smarter, that's also not wrong. But it's the idea is, you want to game the system, because if you game the system, you'll get the results that you want. And and for some people it work. Again, for some people it might work when you game the system, just because of actually of whatever abilities or whatever they have, they're able to retain the necessary information to keep going. But some people, you may have gained the system, but in the long run, you end up losing out a lot. For example, when students are studying for exams, like sometimes students, they're studying for the exam, not studying to grasp the material.
mhm.
So you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
pass the class, but then when you go to the next grade and all that information you were supposed to have learned, yes, you technically you got an A and whatever the prerequisite was, but but now you might end up like struggling initially trying to
Mhm.
understand the concept, and So and that there's a levels of frustration down the line
Mm-hmm.
as to why you're not getting it. Like I got an A in pre-calc, why am I struggling in calculus? Well, maybe because you work smarter and actually harder, you not understand all the concept. You gain the system, you pass, you did what you needed to do. Because sometimes as a society, all we care about is the result, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily
Right.
how we obtain it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have like a lot of like nefarious signal, because like people all they care about is like the final result. So if all you people are seeing is this, what's this, and they're not caring about the step A to step B, then why not gain the system?
Yes, you're right. And again, I want to like clarify that I'm not advocating for one or the other because
Same.
again, we could sit there and we could say I think we're just really trying to distinguish between the two because what we're really talking about is not those hacks.
Yeah.
Not that there is anything wrong with them. Again, coming back to what we kind of started this off with, we don't necessarily know exactly how long we're going to live. So maybe a hack gets you there in half the time and you don't need to necessarily go through to that lesson. I'm not the one to judge. I'm not going to sit here. That is a valid option. Our goal is to really talk about how to navigate those more long-term processes. And another big challenge that I think that we face during those time periods is it's very weird when you walk up to somebody, especially that you're not super close with, and we interact with more people that we're not super close. If we're working, chances are I'm interacting with a whole lot more people that I'm uncomfortable with than I am comfortable with. And for those people especially, it's going to be really weird if I walk up and I'm like, "No, I'm not okay. My life is falling apart and leave me alone." That's problematic. Even if it's not falling apart and even if I'm like, "Oh, well, things are tough and I'm just kind of navigating the spaces the best I can," people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, why are you not okay?" You know what I mean? Why not? And I think that there is a big opportunity for all of us to normalize not being okay and understanding that a lot of the times we aren't and we don't have to pretend. That's very much so wishful thinking, and I don't think we're anywhere near there yet. But I think that that would be a really, really cool thing to kind of strive for. The next place that I kind of want to move to is what makes it more challenging, because I think that we've defined that pretty well.
Mhm.
That gray space, that transitional space where we're not seeing results. We're probably running into some challenges at this point in time because when we first get started, everything is so new and it's so exciting. It's almost like getting a new toy. You're like, "Ooh, new toy to play with. Yeah." And that's awesome. That's super cool. But especially with things like journaling, with things like eating healthier, with all of these things, there's a learning curve that comes with it. We have to take on some level of uncertainty that we have to adopt new frameworks in order to manage. In that gray area, in that gray space, or in those transitional periods, I still am trying to find a good term for those. So if I say it 3 times, that's the only reason why. During those periods, those are when the challenges arise. And those are when life kind of shows up and says, "All right, well, you've learned some new things. Let's see if you can apply that framework." And it's not easy. If we go back to those that habit loop that I was talking about a couple of episodes ago, I'm in this habit loop. I'm taking all the actions habitually that I've been taking. Well, okay, I stopped those. I started going down this road. There's a path that leads off this way. There's probably like 8 million different paths that bounce off the path in order to come back to here, just like they can go back to, or they can go forward. And when those paths diverge, I'm left with, well, what do I do? Do I apply my new knowledge, or are those, neuronal pathways not strong enough yet to be able to make a different decision and go further? Do I need more practice? Do I need more experience? And so that is incredibly difficult because it's already a challenging situation. We already want it right now. And you're telling me that it's not my time yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's telling you that specifically, but that's the message that I can then come ahead and take from that. And there is no, it's really very interesting. There is no guarantee that I come out on the other side with what I want. And so, not having that clarity of thought, it becomes very, very easy for
Mhm.
self-doubt to creep in, and for self-doubt to come in and say, well, guess what? You probably shouldn't have started this process in the first place. You didn't do so good. And I'm only telling you from my experience exactly what happened. You're not good enough. Move on. Go for it. Get out of here. And if not careful, that one self-defeating thought can take us back to square one. And then we have to we're not starting the process entirely over because we've built up some of those pathways. But if we're not fortunate enough to bounce back from that and kind of jump right back into it, that's problematic.
Yeah.
Because the longer that it goes on, the less likely I am to restart again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back to a point you made earlier with the dopamine reward. It's like, yeah, it's exactly like getting a new toy. When you're starting something new, you are excited. You are doing things that you've never done before, and your body is like, woo, or your mind is like, ooh. So you are getting a lot of dopamine receptors, and you're getting a lot of the happy hormones and neurotransmitters. And as time goes by, those slowly depletes, and then it gets stable to a point where to you it feels like nothing. Again, I want to make this comparison. I'm going to talk about drugs. But when people start doing drugs, it's exciting. It's a new feeling they've never felt before. But as they kept using the same drug and typically the same dosage, like you don't get that same happy, fuzzy feeling. Either people do one of two things: they seek out ways to make themselves at that feeling. It's like trying to catch that feeling that you get
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning. So you either have to use harder drugs or harder dosage of the same drugs, at least attempt to try to reach that new high. And I think people need to understand, when you start something new, it is very exciting. Your brain is like on 10.
Yeah, lighten up like a Christmas tree.
And it's literally lighting in a bottle. And you will and I think people don't understand that they'll never feel the same way they do at the beginning. You can get close to it as the journey progresses, but you'll never get like to that point again as you did on that first day. Like, think about yourself on the first day of school. You're like, "Oh, first day of school, I'm gonna learn this, this, and this." Halfway through the semester, you're like, why am I here? I should go home. Like, and
What
then
was I thinking?
like, Larry, what was I thinking? And then you're like, was it a mistake? Again, you can never capture that feeling you did on that first day of when you were doing that, you're trying that new experience. So I think when people understand that, you can stop chasing the impossible because you can never catch the impossible.
Yes, yes. You're not. I'm trying to think of how I want to proceed from there because you're right. I mean, effectively, you're talking about the process of addiction and how that all happens, and that's wonderful. Addiction, I think that drugs are a really good example for this because you started something new and then it waned and I'm not getting the same result. And so I guess that's what I want to do. I want to highlight the differences in there. With drugs, it's very easy because you can just go get more drugs. With this kind of transition area of becoming a better person, you can't fast track that experience. You have to proceed and become in order to catch that new feeling and to ride that new wave. And it's not always clear cut because we have, uh, God, there's that guy, and I can't remember his name to save my life, but there's literally a book called Neural Darwinism. Um, It's an old book, but your neurons are going to compete for firing. It's not just like, oh, I've done this for a little bit. If you're trying to develop those new pathways, they're going to fight with each other. They're not just going to be like, oh, yeah, go, please. This neuron wants to stay because it was strengthened up over the past 10 years. And now you're trying to get me to dissolve this connection because we don't need to make this one anymore and go on to this new one. It's going to put up a little bit of a fight. It's not like it just walks right on by and just says, oh, yeah, come on, go for it. That self-doubt is just super easy to succumb to in those moments in time. The other big problem that happens a lot, especially the further and further that you go down the road, is it becomes more and more lonely as times go on. I can really only speak for Americans and the kids that I work with. A lot of them just want to be comfortable. I ask a lot of them what they're going to do for the weekend. They tell me they're going to sleep and bed rot. And you're like, okay. I couldn't do that personally, but that is a very common activity for younger generations, which means that there are a lot of people that can come together and I don't want to say sympathize, but share that kind of experience of bed rotting. However, as you start to go deeper down the self-improvement rabbit hole, there are less and less and less people that decide to do that for no other fact other than for no other reason other than the fact that it just gets difficult at a certain
Mm-hmm.
point in time. The decisions that we make are trickier. Not everybody goes to med school. There are less people that go to med school than that go and get a PhD. I don't even know if that's true or not. I'm just going to make some arbitrary example. I feel
Probably
like,
true.
yeah, I mean, look, like I
Because
said, this is for arbitrary.
I think like pretty much every university has like a PhD program, but like there's only like I think 137 med schools, at least in the US.
Right. And that's why I say maybe, but I'm going to use that as just an arbitrary example. If there are less med schools than there are less med students than there are PhD students, you guys have a different framework of living. You've got a different framework of being. These guys have a different way over here. Now they're going to go congregate with themselves over here. You guys are going to go congregate with yourselves over here because we are people that look for similarities. We don't, if somebody is different than us, we have this very eloquent term to be able to describe them, and it's weird. There's nothing actually weird about them. They just do things differently than you do. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does highlight this idea that we will gravitate towards people who are doing things that are
Yeah.
really relatively similar to us. And so again, the further down the rabbit hole that you go, it just becomes lonelier because you stop finding people that have had those same experiences. That doesn't mean, especially in that gray transition area, right? Because you're not fully realized of like the person that you want to be. But when you see those results, that's kind of when that loneliness kind of dissipates a little bit and you kind of find some people that you can go around and discuss or talk with, be friends with, all that kind of stuff. And I think that is really, really helpful. I did note false positivity on here because I hear everyone saying, well, just be grateful. Gratitude is a byproduct of going through this process. I cannot force myself into gratitude. I've tried. I remember when I was a kid, people used to be like, just be grateful. Fuck you. I'm not grateful. I'm fucking miserable because my life is in fucking shambles. Don't tell me to be grateful. Eat my shit. And they weren't wrong. They were definitely right. They were like, you do need to be grateful, but I needed to be going down that process and beginning to change that habitual means of negative thought patterns in order to be able to even open myself up to the possibility of
Yeah.
gratitude. So
No.
telling me to
Yeah.
just be grateful is crazy.
No,
Not that
I think
it's
it's I think of where people from the outside, they're like, boy, you got all of this going for you. You
uh
got all of this. You should just be great. Yes, you're going through all this, but like, look what you got. But the thing that sometimes people, because we've all gone through it, but sometimes people don't understand or don't want to understand is that j- internally your brain can be telling you something completely different than what's going on the outside. Yes, it may be true that you have all these things and you should be happy that you have these things, but internally you're not even considering those things as positives most of the time. You are thinking them as detriment. So you can't be grateful for something that you are viewing as actively fighting against you or are a detriment to you.
right. Yeah. And and I think that this is kind of the perfect place to kind of introduce this idea of grace. Normally we talk about this from the beginning. I didn't feel like doing that with this episode, so I'm going to introduce it now and we're going to define it and then we're going to move forward with grace being the I don't want to say motivating factor because that's not right, but grace as the idea that is going to sustain us through. And I don't know if you've ever seen somebody who moves with grace. It's very hard to describe. It's it's something that I think is I know it and I can recognize it in other people when when I see it, but it is not always easy to define. The definition that I went and looked up is the act of offering yourself compassion, patience, and acceptance, especially in the moments you feel least deserving of it. It's not about perfection or performance, but about choosing to pause instead of push, to soften instead of shame, and to allow space for healing to unfold in its own time. I think that's I don't think I could say that any better. I mean it it's not it's like self-love with integrity. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm accepting of me and who I am and where I am in this moment, and I am going to do the right thing that I know what to do even though I could very easily do whatever the fuck I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
No, yes, yes. Self-love with the critical eye. You are willing to, to see your own fault and what needs to be done, but you're not beating yourself over it. You're not just mainly focusing on that and be like, "Ah, I'm such a loser. Why can't I get this?" No, you're saying, okay, this is the state I am at. I'm not getting to the goals that I want to attain. I feel bad, but I'm not going to let those feelings that I have about specific task or whatever goal I want to accomplish define me or become me. You are willing to, there's a space within you that there's a space for multitude. It's not a black or a white thing. You're not like, just like, you know, I I failed today. I'm going to try again tomorrow and I surely will. And you're like, I hate myself. I hate myself. It's not that. It's not those two things.
Yes. No, yeah, I mean, it's practicing that level of compassion for wherever it is that you are. It's okay. I really like this note that I put here. Normalize uncertainty as a part of wellness. Please do. It is, it is huge when you're talking about moving through life's more tumultuous or uncertain moments with grace. Because if you understand that this is just a normal part of growing, this is just a normal part of getting better, then it's much more likely that you're going to follow it and stick with it as opposed to why is this happening? This isn't supposed to be happening. I took the actions and now I should be seeing the results. And the reality is don't worry, you will see the results. You're just not going to see them today. You will see them when you are ready to become that person and not a minute before, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I would love to say that like, hey, I took a couple of bits of action and now I'm here. It just doesn't work that way, especially if it's something worthwhile. It's something worth doing. then it just doesn't happen that way. I mean, what's it called? I forget the quote that they used to say, but Usain Bolt trained X amount of years to run for 4.5 minutes. That's crazy. I don't even, I can barely comprehend training at something for 6 years, literally just for 4 minutes of my life.
Yes.
That is a level of dedication and consistency and perseverance that I could only imagine what he had to go through in order to achieve that. The same thing kind of sticks. And I think really what we're primarily talking about is reframing these ideas. Most of our conversation today has been around reframing this aspect, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know that in all my years I've ever sat down with somebody and they've had a conversation with me about anything like this. And that's talking about from uh, therapeutic professionals. That is from no, mostly therapeutic professionals. Yeah, mostly. I mean, people in AA, things like that. We didn't really talk about that. Everyone was just like, we talked about the beginning and we talked about the end, but
And
very rarely do we talk about the middle. And so I'm glad that we're having this conversation
mhm,
today. It is not an easy one. It is very, very difficult to talk about some of these things, because I'd be lying if I said I thought about a lot of them. I think a lot about what it's going to look like when I'm done. I think a lot about what I need to do in order to get started with something.
mhm.
But very rarely do I think about what it's going to look like in the middle while I'm becoming that person.
And I think sometimes that's what gets people, because people will have the beginning and it's exciting. They'll
Hmm.
push through the middle, even though they'll be miserable. They'll get to the end, and the end will not feel good. So they're like, what was it all for?
Right. Yes.
Because
And
sometimes the way I think the way we frame thing is, if I get to this goal, I will be happy. My life will look like this.
hmm
As you said earlier, 99.9% of the time, it doesn't look like that. So people are disappointed because sometimes people will have the willpower to to persevere and push to that great area, but
hmm
then they get to that end goal and then they're like,
right. It comes back to that old adage of it's all about the journey. And I always used to it drives me crazy when people tell me that, because again, if you don't know what they're talking about, you're like, what do you mean it's about the journey? What are you talking about? This is bullshit. And it is definitely 100% about the journey. It's about that. It's about figuring it out in those middle times. It is about finding beauty when the world is falling apart around you. It is, and I mean, I was driving home from Delaware last night. It's 2.5 hour drive, and we got to see a good bit of the sunset, but after the sun would be blinding you in the eyes. So it was just these gorgeous blue, purple, and deep orange and reds. The sky was stunning. Absolutely stunning. If I wasn't on those sorts of journeys and going in that, and I'm not, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 100% in this middle period. I'm not at the results. I'm constantly trying to figure it out. I'm not at the first stage of trying to figure it out, which is rough because you're like, oh my God, this is new. And what do I do? I'm not at the second stage where you're like, okay, I'm kind of comfortable doing that. I'm at the third where I'm like, all right, I've put in a good bit of work. I know the results are coming. I just have to keep taking some more action, and things will be okay. There's a few things that can really, really help. And I think the biggest things to helping is staying grounded to what is actually going on, and not being overly positive, not being overly negative, but taking honest assessment of exactly what's going on. So whatever your problem is, not trying to just jump right to fixing it, because there may not be a fix. Coming back to that whole
mhm,
idea of everything may or may not happen for a reason, there may not be a solution. It may just suck to suck. So saying, oh man, I'm I'm down and out, I'm frustrated, I'm whatever, insert emotion there because X is taking longer than I thought it would. I'm trying to get there. I don't see any solution. It's okay that I feel this way.
Mm.
And accepting those more unpleasant emotions that are going to arise is really, really helpful because then you can uh, naming what the problem is without finding a problem is going to be, without focusing on finding a solution, is going to be a tool that is really, really helpful for navigating those times. Creating small, gentle habits or rituals, whatever, are going to help you to be able to process those.
Yeah.
Check-ins, at the very least weekly. Daily is ideal, but weekly is mandatory so that you can, or at the very least weekly, but you should definitely then increase that if it is needed because you're experiencing some sort of inner turmoil. Journaling super helpful for that. Definitely should use that in a way to keep yourself grounded during these times. Doing something creative is always really helpful because it makes us feel good about ourselves again. And any time spent in nature is always going to be really, really helpful, right? Finding those small things that make you happy despite all the confusion, super duper helpful. What helps with that? Journaling. Again, I really liked that this happened. Write down some things that you like. Write down some things that you don't like. I'll try and come up with maybe more so than reflection, like an actual journal entry for this to be placed in the description for you guys, which hopefully will be really, really helpful. And really paying attention to this idea of what is true today. What is my truth? Am I really that bad? Or is that just me trying to play tricks on me? Am I really that good? Or is that the ego flaring up out of nowhere? Really taking honest stock of everything that is going on. And I think if you can use those tools to kind of maintain and keep going, then you can navigate those more chaotic times with grace and really get to the results of what it is that you want out of this lifetime.
Per- per- Perfectly said. And to just bring all the points back home, the gray exists for a reason. It is not a pleasant place to be. Once you're, as you said, at the start of your journey, you're really excited, you want to do things, and you're looking at the end. And we don't often think about this middle ground that exists of how we're going to transition from that beginning to the end. And it's hard, and there's going to be a lot of doubt, and you have to keep pushing yourself through it. And the main thing that we discuss is giving yourself grace, being open and willing to not be too hard on yourself, but also keeping a critical eye on yourself so you don't slack too much. We don't want you to be toxically positive and toxically negative. We want you to really think about the process, be open to it, allowing yourself the moment to grow. And as AJ said, doing the things that he laid out, again, we're going some of these points we're going to run to the ground with a lot of these episodes. But the key is journaling, personalization, and being open and critically reflective of yourself.
That's all we have for today. Thanks for hanging out with us on Roaming Minds.
Carlos here with a friendly reminder, your mind's worth it.
If you enjoyed our conversation and want to learn more, hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening. Spotify, Apple, whatever works for you. Maybe even drop us a review if you're feeling extra kind. If you're the social media type, come find us on Instagram at roaming_minds_pod. We've got updates, behind the scenes bonuses, all that good stuff.
Catch us next week for another ADHD-filled adventure, chasing life, liberty, and whatever shiny idea grabs us next.